What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. We have a little 3-game NBA slate we're going to be going through. Hopefully you guys got the caught the golf video, and hopefully it works out well for you. I did want to say a quick thing before we got into tonight's slate that I wrote DraftKings an email with a picture of my screen because I couldn't edit my lineups last night, and it really sort of screwed me up. So they're refunding me. They haven't refunded it yet. They said it'll take to 24 hours, but I do trust that they will. And I just want to say thank you to DraftKings. And just a reminder to, if stuff like that happens, this is an industry we have to be able to have at least a competitive chance. And if things shut down, you got to let these people know, and emailing them with the picture is the best way to do it. And the people at DraftKings have been really helpful. So I just wanted to say thank you to them and remind you guys all to do that if you run into that situation in the future.
Yeah, the fact is that, everybody's trying to make this work. But, like you said, there's got to be a better way, right? I mean, NBA's got to have a better way. I mean, it's rough. It is definitely rough.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're doing. The thing is, they're doing without the bubble. I don't really know what they can do, to be honest with you. But that's coming from a guy who literally, these days, Sheets, it's like it was early with you guys. It's like everybody out here just has it. Everybody. I mean, not everybody, but 30% of the people have it. All right, so let's get into the slate. Obviously, we have the most interesting real-life basketball game is the first one. And I think this is a spot where I'm going to say that we should probably play LeBron, and I think everybody else is going to as well. What do you think about this game?
I agree with that. Again, it's a 3-game slate, so you do need to find a couple of hoodoos, right? Doesn't mean you have to go completely off the board. So let's start with the simple thing. I mean, for me, simple thing for me would be, and you can do this on FanDuel real easily, is to play LeBron and Giannis. No?
Yeah, but I actually think that and it's hard to do financially maybe, but I think that you can play Anthony Davis too.
All three?
I don't think this is a bad spot to do it. You have two guys who I really think they should be in the 50s more than not here in this matchup. We've seen Milwaukee play extremely fast. We know how LeBron gets in one-on-one type of things, like former MVPs that he could have been his and all the stuff. You know what I mean? There's just any extra little stuff for a guy like LeBron I'm always going to use. And then Anthony Davis just on his own in this matchup. You'd think, okay, well, Giannis will guard him. Giannis, he's going to have to guard him some tonight because that's just the way that they're built. But the truth is, I've watched a lot of Milwaukee games, and one thing Giannis won't do because he's such a good help side defender, and I think they're actually making a mistake with it because they should have had him on Durant. He didn't guard Durant at all in that game. So they're doing everything they can not to put him on the other team's, either best scorers or big guys. So, but he's going to have to guard Anthony Davis some of the game and probably LeBron some of the game. But I still think overall, when the other matchups, whether it's Brook Lopez, whether who else would Milwaukee try to put on him? I honestly think that Drew Holiday will probably guard LeBron most, and Drew Holiday is awesome. I know that Milwaukee's defense hasn't been great this year, but Drew Holiday has been terrific on the ball this season. So I actually think, but anyway, long story short, I think that you can play a lot from this game, starting with LeBron, and I would go LeBron AD on the Lakers, and then I would go Giannis as one of the top players.
Do we have enough value to do this?
I don't know if we do. That's the problem. So if you're going to skip that, I think there's no problem. I mean, the Lakers are not a dream matchup for these guys. Like Drew Holiday is 6.6. So I think that if you're going to play both, you want to run it back with one of these guys, right? In my opinion. I don't mind going Holiday or Middleton if you can't afford the Giannis thing. Because I think it is going to be hard to fit all three in without doing some DJ Augustine stuff, which I don't think is the worst idea in the world.
Well, I think that the play, which is going to be the kind of the play to make this work, which people are going to go to, and this is totally a you question, is Alex Caruso. And again, we had this discussion yesterday, but I think it's a little different. We had this discussion with respect to Goodwin and Solomon Hill with respect to what do we really expect out of these guys, and the question was answered, well, we expect, Luka and the guys we're getting to get those points. I mean, it's not like I'm expecting Alex Caruso, for example, to get 30 fantasy points, but, at least I know, he's going to play. I mean, he seems to always play. So if he gets 15 fantasy points, then I guess that's plenty.
Well, it only depends on if it's plenty, because DJ Augustine on the other side is probably going to play just the same number of minutes, have just this, a similar opportunity, probably not quite as good of opportunity to do much, but he'll still have an opportunity. So I would say, between those two guys, I think I prefer Caruso, but I actually think that the field will probably prefer Augustine. At least that's my early predictions, and I think they're projected to be very, very similar in terms of production. But I don't mind those other guys as fillers. So the way that I would rank it for the Lakers, LeBron then AD. I love Montrezl Harrell as a potential play here. I mean, the Bucks play fast. Those are not usually the games I want to get Gasol in. It doesn't really matter because he sort of plays his 20 minutes anyway. And Gasol's completely in play. He's 3.6. You know what I mean? If you want to get really creative, you can play him on FanDuel. It's not the dream matchup. There's not a lot of rebounds to be had when you guard Brook Lopez because he stays out on the perimeter. Partly why he doesn't rebound either. There's not a lot of value for the centers against this team in certain aspects. On the other side of it, there's a lot of value on the offensive end for them, but it's not like they're going to run their offense entirely through Marc Gasol or Harrell. I could sort of see Harrell being the one who's sort of scrambling out there, doing things with the second unit out there when Bobby Portis is out there. I could see him being active. So I'm not saying I love these guys, but I do think that you should make a decision between one of those two. And the one guy who's going to be completely overlooked on DraftKings or two guys are Schroeder and Kuzma. I'm just going to say, I think Kuzma's actually looked better and better and better. And they're starting to like playing with him. And I know he's 5K on DraftKings, so maybe you don't go there, but 4.2 on FanDuel certainly is interesting to me. So I'm actually considering all these Lakers a huge pace up spot for them. I expect this game to be competitive, but I do think LeBron's going to carry most of the offensive load along with AD.
Okay.
And then Milwaukee, I told you, we mentioned those guys. The only guy I want to mention, and it's not even a long shot play tonight because of the 3-game slate, but Bobby Portis at 4.3, we all know there's a massive ceiling there, even though the matchup sucks.
On FanDuel, Dante DiVincenzo is a good play, as he usually is, at shooting guard at 4,400.
I agree. The only thing that bothers me about the DiVincenzo thing, I feel like I don't know, maybe I'm just tilted over the other night. He had 15 in the first quarter, basically.
Yeah, and he ended up with 14 or something.
And every time I looked, he was playing. He played 32 minutes. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he wasn't on the court. I'm like,
well, I mean, there are other, they're better, higher usage players. It's like,
well, yeah, no, and they were having him guard he was either guarding Durant or Harden the entire game. So that was probably part of the reason. All right, you ready to move on to Golden State, New York?
Yeah. So I'll give you something. Probably would appreciate this. We're getting near the anniversary, unfortunately, of Kobe, right, from last year.
Yeah.
So I'll just throw this out there. So Alec Burks played for Golden State last year, and he's probably going to be back today. And I remember that he was one of the guys. He was number 8 on the Warriors last year, and he, after Kobe died, switched his jersey, and then a week later they got rid of him. Hey, and we Alec Burks specifically has been someone that we've played in these types of situations before. Not against Golden State, but must have been against Utah or something like that. And now, granted, he was with Utah for 8 years, or whatever. But I don't know if they're going to be inclined to just roll him out there and run him back a zillion minutes, just because they're playing Golden State. They got other important. I mean, they want to develop Quigley and this other stuff. But that was the thing I would run past you at first with this game. But aside from that, I think Julius Randle is the best play. I actually would venture to say that he's probably the best play on the slate. And I presume he's going to get owned accordingly.
He'll be owned.
Yeah?
Yeah, he'll be owned.
Yeah, so I like him quite a bit. And then for me, I mean, you got to kind of drop on DraftKings for me to like anybody. On FanDuel, I'm getting to some of the other guys. I'm getting to Barrett and Robinson, maybe even Elf on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I don't think I'm getting to them. I do think that Burks back impacts a lot of these guards. I think that Peyton's minute ceiling gets a little, fishy. I think that even Quigley, his minute ceiling gets a little bit fishy. So I don't know. For me, it's honestly, even though it's only a 3-game slate, for me, it'd just be Randall, I guess, on the Knicks. And then I guess I think I have much more love for the Golden State guys. Like the normal guys. I mean, Draymond, Oubre, Curry, Wiseman, same guys.
So I just want to point out that Golden State's the only team tonight playing on a back-to-back. Just worth noting. Maybe we don't get the full Draymond, 30+ minutes, but he only played 25 last night, so maybe he does. And they were, they took care of business. So, okay, so let's start. I'm starting with the Knicks side. Randall, I agree, is the best play on the Knicks. I think he and LeBron are pretty close on the slate personally, but I also really like RJ Barrett. I think that nobody's going to go to him. I don't think, like, in terms of usage, it hurts him to have Burks back. That's fine. But the minutes are still going to be there. And I just like him at low minutes in a good matchup here on a 3-game slate. And Mitchell Robinson is the other one who I think we have to have some consideration for. Don't know where I'm going to end up exactly with those other guys, but they're on my list. Maybe we can sort of sum up a little bit at the end, because I'm still trying to figure out, because I like these guys as long shot plays, but can I really fit them in? I haven't tried that build yet.
I mean, you could certainly so you could certainly stack this game if you wanted to try that.
Yeah, you get pretty condensed usage on one side, and you get, in terms of
and the benefit of doing that is that if the Lakers and Milwaukee game just brought a lot of fantasy points, you're dead without making changes. So you have like 2 games worth of changes that you can make if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So if you're going to stack the game, you probably want to play Curry, right?
Yeah. So, what if you heard for some reason that Burks was starting tonight?
Well, I would say I would put myself in Bobby's shoes, and I'd say, God damn it, I prefer him coming off the bench.
That would be my general stance, but in this case, him starting might mean 30 minutes instead of 20.
It could, couldn't it? Let me see if there's any news on this, because he's probable.
Yeah, so let's keep an eye on his what we hear about minutes later and who the starting lineup is for the. Well, it's going to be hard because that's going to be.
Who else been getting minutes too, and the Bullock's been getting minutes.
That's what I'm saying, but I expect him to take over a lot of that Bullock stuff.
Yeah, what? I also think that if they do start him, it is a sign that he's actually healthy too.
I agree, and you're right though. But in terms of usage, he's playing with Randall, Barrett, and Peyton, the other highest usage guys in the team. So yes, it'd be better for him to play with the bench guys. But if we know he's starting, and also, the thing is, you got Toppin playing minute. You just got a lot more bodies there.
Yeah, I agree.
But I still love it as a long shot tournament play. I think there's no way I don't put Alec Burks in at least one lineup, just because I can build a completely chalky lineup with just Alec Burks, and I buy into that stuff completely. And also, Sheets, we don't need to buy into it. We can look at the production he was having before he left. In 3 games, he was putting up, he's averaging like 30. What was he averaging? 35?
Hey, and not bad Wiseman last night.
Yeah.
Did nicely. 25 full minutes, just perfect, perfectly efficient game. That's exactly what you want from him.
Do you know what the problem was with Wiseman last night?
Nothing.
Every center went off. Well, I played
right.
that.
Well, yeah, well, of course.
I won on FanDuel strictly because I had the DeAndre Ayton center move with.
That was a good play.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as your guy Capella, but he also didn't get the overtime too. But yeah, DeAndre Ayton just completely went.
The overtime actually hurt Capella in a way, because that got all the other guys there too.
You're right. No, you're right. 100. Well, but again, I didn't have enough Capella, and I didn't have enough of the other guys, so it hurt me every which way. All right, you ready to move on?
No,
I do like Wiseman. I think that he's another really obvious value, but like you could use he's one of the guys I thought of as Bobby Porter as a pivot off of on tonight's slate, because I do think that Wiseman ends up really, really, really high on.
I don't think Green sits or anything like that.
I don't think so either. I think they've got a thing rolling right now, and
they're winning. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And not only that, teams need to win. It's because of this. It's funny. People sort of laugh at 72 instead of 82. So games still won't mean as much. And I'm like, no, they're going to mean so much more.
Bobby, I don't know if you saw this. Like, Draymond's so awesome. So I retweeted it. I don't know if you saw it. So this guy, Johnny Carver, when he posted this, there was an awesome clip from the other day when Golden State was playing the Lakers. You gotta find it. It's amazing. Where Draymond Green was basically, like teaching like Wiseman and stuff like on the court. And he's actually taken him under his wing a couple of other times this year.
Yeah.
But he was telling him, listen, dude, I mean, this is great. I got you the ball I could have gotten you the ball against Marc Gasol in space. I mean, he's talking right. And that's totally what you want. He's like, yeah, I know I didn't see it. I know because you didn't see it. But Marc Gasol in space is something I like from you. And the funniest thing about it is when the camera pans out, Marc Gasol was standing right there.
Yeah. No, I heard about that. That's hilarious.
Oh, that was awesome.
I heard about it on another podcast. That's really, really funny.
Yep.
I do want to throw something out, though. I think there's a reasonable chance that Wiggins might rest tonight.
Because he played yesterday?
I mean, he was already iffy with the injury. Just keep an eye on it. Like if we hear anything throughout the day, he's not even called questionable right now. So at least if he gets downgraded to questionable, we can start taking shots on some of the later night value with Damian Lee, maybe Brad Wanamaker, and more Kelly Oubre and potentially more Draymond even. But I mean, Oubre, that Oubre over Draymond worked pretty well last night too. Oubre had another nice game, and this game is not his kind of environment necessarily, but he's out there playing the minutes, and especially with the Wiggins questionable stuff, we should probably have him on the list. So all the favorite plays at the end, guys. And
not only that, but he had a good game with Wiggins playing. I mean,
yeah, true.
Okay, so New Orleans against Utah. Not the most exciting of them all. When my favorite, I guess, point per dollar play is Steven Adams, it's not really such a great situation, right? Actually, you could play Donovan. You could play. There are guys you could play. Hold on. So Gobert 7,200. You could definitely play him.
Yeah,
you play Donovan Mitchell. Who else was cheap for New Orleans? Ugh, just Adams, right? Dude, you're getting Zion at 7,700.
Yeah, and look, as much as this, yeah, I mean, I've got some thoughts on this game. So
go for it.
I'm bumping up everybody just because if you're going to play this game, I think you should pretend that it plays it close. And I think that New Orleans is in they're trying to win. And I mean, we have a coach here who's going to play his guys minutes too. So where Zion might be projected for 34 minutes, I have him projected for 36 minutes. I accidentally just projected Lonzo Ball for 296 minutes, which is not what I meant.
It's a little high.
I think so. So basically, I think Zion and Brandon Ingram, who I just put the wrong number of minutes in for, are both going to play more minutes than or both have a more minute upside, I should say. I also think that Nickeil Alexander-Walker has upside on his minutes, and I think that he's a really good low-owned play on the slate. But what's happened again is you don't want to play Bledsoe when everyone is playing him in all these spots, but all of a sudden while I like the other guys better, Bledsoe is interesting. But I think that the one I might end up going with is Josh Hart. Even with Zion back, I mean, his minutes actually have dipped with Lonzo back. His minutes have actually dipped with Lonzo out, as has his production, which is mostly rebounding. And it's more because I think he's staying on the perimeter as another shooter rather than in there fighting for every board. And you want this guy for his double doubles. He's a rebounding machine. And he's just, he's been more around 5 and 6, 7 lately rather than 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, So I think Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are interesting off the board plays. And I am gonna have some Zion and some Ingram. What worries me about Ingram is the other night, there's a lot of nights he's taking all the shots and everything, but his creation, I really thought he'd be at least have some games in the double digits with assists, and it's just not working out that way. So most of my interest on this team is going to end up going towards Zion, who I just feel like could put up 50 even against the toughest matchup, and Alexander Walker, Hart, and Bledsoe is mostly where I'm sided with these guys.
I think we might be, I don't want to say overthinking this, but just the other day, right? I mean, Lonzo was going to be just insanely popular, and then they announced the minutes restriction. And I presume there's no more minutes restriction, and he's cheaper than he was when he.
I think that's a big assumption. I don't know if I think that I agree with that unless we hear that exact word,
What? That there's no minutes restriction?
Yeah. You haven't. What do you have projected at minutes wise?
Nothing. I mean, I haven't really. Again, I'm just taking an overview right now. I mean, I literally don't have him projected as a good play right now at all. But I'm just wondering why that is. I think
maybe you're right.
Why would he not play 32 minutes unless, you know what I mean? Unless there's a restriction.
Well, but there was a restriction coming back from injury, and it seems likely that they would do it again. But then again, going back to the other thing I was saying is that they do need to win games. And I mean, Lonzo was a guy who was playing in the mid 30s for most of the season. So, okay, Sheets, I'm on board. I can take that shot. I don't necessarily.
The problem you had with it last time, by the way, the reason why you didn't like it last time, even before the minutes restriction, remember you were out that night, I think, was when I was mentioning Mike Conley, guarding me, you're like, well, what is he going to do again? How is that really going to help him that much? Right. Because he's more of a facilitator and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Who do you like more? Let's as we kind of transition to FanDuel a little bit. Who do you like more at Lonzo Ball at 5,500 or Elf Payton at 5,300?
So we're assuming if we're assuming Burks is back, let's just Lonzo and the ownership, I think, is the answer. Now I think Elf is definitely the better play, obviously, like in terms of who I expect to score more, but I don't think it's by that much. I think Lonzo might actually, I don't want to see as a higher ceiling, but his minute ceiling is if with Burks back is probably much higher than Elf's. Like it might be 38. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm into this, Sheets, a little bit. You kind of got me into this a little bit. I think it makes some sense. His production always leaves a little to be desired anyway with Lonzo, but I do think it's an interesting, when you're talking about ownership being that different between the two. But I'm pretty sure that if Lonzo gets announced and there's no minutes restriction, that we will see that reflected in the ownership.
And excuse me, but don't you just have to play Jordan Clarkson every day?
Hey man, the other day everybody's like, well, with all these guys back, and I'm like, yeah. I don't know if you saw what I wrote in the Discord, but I was like, but you got to take those shots. And to be honest, he was the one who saved all my lineups. Look, it's a 3-game slate, so I'll say we should definitely, he's more in play this time, or more in play than usual even. So yeah, I think Jordan Clarkson at no ownership again. And also one other thing is, like, this game could get out of hand. Like, I know the last time it was reasonably close, but Utah has blown out most of their they've got a 6-game winning streak. They're averaging winning by 15 in a game, and that was after a close-ish game with New Orleans last time, or one that stayed close for a while. On the Utah side, I think Gobert is like one of the staple plays of the day. I'm not as interested in Conley because I just don't play him as much, and I don't have a great thing for you guys. It's just I would rather take my shots on the Clarkson and the Mitchell putting up monster games. I just always feel better about it. And Conley generally, when he goes over and plays really well, goes to like 40. Clarkson might be similar now that they're in a similar price range, but you get much lower ownership and actually probably like a lot more activity, especially if the game does blow out. So that makes Clarkson even more appealing. Bogdanovich is too cheap, and I think is always worth taking a shot on in GPPs. The minutes are always they're a little bit funny with them with all these guys healthy, but Bogdanovich I would prefer over Royce O'Neal. Just because I would bet on the shooting. But I think they're all in play. And then again, we have to hear about we have to try to figure out how many minutes Joe Ingles will play. They've been playing well without him, but then he played really well the other night and they won. I mean, if his minutes get ticked up to 20, 28 or so at 4.3, it's hard not to consider him at least.
Last time these guys played, Clarkson was, I think, Clarkson was 19% owned.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the 2-game slate.
Yeah, because it was only 2-game slate.
Yeah.
It was only a 3-game slate though.
Yeah. It's a little bit better than that 2-game slate was.
And he was projected, this is one of the things I look at, he was projected on average for 27 fantasy points and he got 36.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's exceeded his projected number, I think. Let me see how many games in a row it's been. At least 4. 6 out of 7 at least. 29, 40, 23, 41, 31, 35, 36. He's all above projection every one of those times.
Yep.
So also, I want to take a quick look at. Yeah, I don't think we need to do anything weird like Derek Favors tonight. I mean, you might see him some. He is cheap, so you can consider it. But I don't think I'm going to end up going there. But he's not. He's not like a crazy play. I started to think Joe Ingles might actually be somewhere I would look tonight because if he can get his uptick in minutes, I just have to do some more digging, and we'll know later today. I'll come on for you guys at 6:30. Sheets is not going to be able to make it with us tonight. Sheets, let's talk real quickly, just sort of sum it up. So I guess I'll sort of go first and just say the guys who I have as sort of priority plays would be LeBron, Randall, Wiseman, Gobert. I actually have Zion as one of them too. I think that just as raw points go, I think he's going to get over 40. DiVincenzo on FanDuel, like you mentioned. Burks as a wild card play. Barrett as not a long shot. But Barrett and Duncan Robinson, I think both have upside here. Kelly Oubre, speculation on Andrew Wiggins' knees. And then you're deciding the Caruso, or if you need the value, Caruso, Favors, and DJ Augustine would be those guys. And I just will try and remind everybody, I think on these nights, I mean, last night it mattered because so many overtimes and all that stuff, but tonight I think it matters to try and make your correlations make some sense. If you play a guy like Clarkson, I don't think you want to run a bunch of New Orleans with Clarkson. Clarkson feels more like he would get more run if they were sort of pulling away, and maybe you get one of Zion or Ingram out there, but maybe not both going all out unless it's, but again, if it's within 20 points, they'll probably be going all out until like the last 5 minutes.
Hey, I got a question for you. What do you think of the Laker game? Like, how do you think that game's going to go? Do you think it's going to be a fast-paced game, a slow-paced game? Because I remember we come off a little differently with stuff like that. Like, how do you see that game going?
The Lakers just don't play that fast in general, but Milwaukee does. And I would expect them to, especially while Gasol's on the court, try and get up and down as fast as they can. That's just my personal take.
Yeah. So so again, so you have the Laker take. So here's the Knick take I have. So the Knicks are really, and it's good they're winning, right? But they're putting these games together like they played in the 90s, man. They play their guys 37, 38 minutes, and they play slow as molasses. I mean, seriously, it's like.
Which, by the way, is the exact way that Julius Randle thrives.
Yeah, So you have a couple of you have a kind of a low scoring slate. You know what I mean? That's the way I'm looking at this.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that it is a low scoring slate.
And in a low scoring slate,
that's all it needs.
Maybe you just go and play LeBron and Giannis together. You know what I mean? And then, LeBron, Giannis, and AD all together.
I do want to say something about Giannis. Even though the usage has been good and has been there and all that stuff from certain angles, he's not creating for this team as much. So last game against Brooklyn, he set 32 on-ball screens. His career high for on-ball screens in a game was 21, and his average was something like 6 or 7. Something, but they partly wanted that more with Drew this year to run more high screen rolls with him. But he used to be the guy handling the ball and being screened for in a lot of those cases, and he's not doing it quite as much. Now the shot attempts are still there, but the assist numbers are a little bit down, not down for him, but we're not seeing those huge flash games. I know he did have the triple-double against Detroit, but I guess everybody does. So I just think that maybe the 10-5, while it's too cheap for him on DraftKings, maybe it's not as much too cheap as it's not like Luka being at 10. Like I think that like going forward, I don't think Giannis is the same level performer as like Luka, for example, or what would have been James Harden if Kyrie or KD were out or something like that.
So just for fun, right? So if you play LeBron and AD together, and you run it, and you have Giannis also, and then who you're punting. So I put in Augustine and Caruso just for openers.
Mm-hmm.
And 4,900, even 4,900 rough. I mean, like, let's say you play.
You got Wiseman.
That's who I was typing in next. So you could play Wiseman, and then at 51, and then you got to play. You can't play Lopez. Yeah, you can, because you could put
Lopez or Harrell.
Because you could put Giannis as a forward.
Yep.
And then you could do this, and then just another 5,100 guy. So you could do that if you wanted. I mean, you could play just the highest scoring projected guys on the slate, and then just kind of hope the other games just don't get there. And that is something you could do.
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to go that way, I think I'm probably going to end up leaning maybe towards playing one of Middleton or Drew Holiday over Giannis currently, just because I like some of the other middling players. Like I do like Zion tonight. I mentioned like Gobert, and I like Randall. So I'd like to try and get some different things than just those two.
Okay.
But there's always that. I mean, look, Giannis can go out there and score 75 against anybody. This doesn't seem like the ideal matchup for it, but I do think that I'd be very surprised if he has less than 50 to 55, and it already almost makes him in play on this kind of a slate.
Yep.
All right.
All right. I guess that's it. That's all we got.
Yep. You guys, if you have any specific questions, throw them in Discord. I'll try and answer them throughout the day. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying good luck tonight, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.